Hello and welcome to level 4, and in this level we're going to be adding more control to your visualizations. Now we're going to start off fairly easy. We're going to add additional elements to your pages that aren't actual visualizations. For example, previously we have got this item, this visualization, which we can click on and it highlights individual elements elsewhere. And it also filters down on this table. But there's no real way of knowing that without actually being a proficient Power BI user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going in the Home tab to insert a text box. So you can see the text box has now appeared, and I'm just going to say click on a year to focus on this year. Now you can see it's being treated as a visualization. So I might want to add a title, instructions, for example. So I'm going to have this as a background color of yellow, foreground color of black, have it center aligned, have it a bit bigger. So let's close down title. Now you may notice that there isn't actually a category for changing the font size here of the actual text. But you can also see that when I'm inside here, there is a bar similar to what you might have in Microsoft Word. So that allows me to change the size, alignment, bold, italic, underlined, and font as well. So I'm going to now resize this so it's a bit smaller. Maybe drag this down just a bit, and I think maybe also add a border, because it doesn't have a border, it only seems to have a border when you click on it. There we go. Now I want to link this in some way to this actual box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little shape. So I'm going to go from this particular box to this visualization. So here we have an arrow, a ginormous arrow as it looks like. So I'll just make it a bit smaller. And then in the format shape pane, so this is the equivalent of the visualization, we also have things like rotation. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, oops, wrong way, 270 degrees, that's the right way. But you can also change things like the line color and weight and whether it is filled or not. And again, you can change what the fill color is and even add a title if you so wish, if there was a particular shape that needed a title. Now there is another one called action, another category here, but I will be looking at that when I look at insert buttons in a few videos time. Now a quick look at some of the additional formatting options. So if we're going to shape, you can change the shape type and you can see all the different options. So while you've got some options here, you can see them described in here, so you don't have to have your first choice all the time. You've also got rounded corners, so have a look at this shape. When I change this from 0 to 100 pixels, you can also change the size of the arrowhead. As well as the stem width. So that's this bit here. So how wide is it compared to the rest of the shape? Now obviously these will not be applicable for all shapes. So if you change the shape, then you might have different options. The size of the arrowhead. As well as the stem width. So that's this bit here. So how wide is it compared to the rest of the shape? Now, obviously, these will not be applicable for all shapes. So if you change the shape, then you might have different options. Looking at the style section, in addition to having the fill and the border, you can also add some text. So you can see there, and again, you've got all the formatting options. You can also add padding, in other words, how far it has to be away from the shape. You can also add some shadow and glow as well. Going back to the text box, you can see that we have got superscript and subscript as well as bulleted lists. We've also got these things down here, value and review. Those are to do with smart narratives, and we'll be looking at that near the end of part 1 of this course. Now, maybe you've got some instructions on a website that you want people to be able to go to. Well, you could have another text box. So maybe I've got a text box here, and I'll say full instructions, click here. So resize that. And what I'm going to do is insert a link. So this is a hyperlink to somewhere. So I'm just going to take it to Microsoft.com. But that could be your own website with full instructions, or maybe even a video on how to use it. So you can see it's only linked the word here, but it is hyperlinked. Now you can't actually click on it while it's still here in the Power BI desktop, but when it's published, then you can click on it. If you want to just make sure you're going to the right address, then you can always select the link and click on it that way. Additionally, you can also insert images. So here we have in Home, Insert Image. This will allow you to find an image and insert it. Now, you'll notice it goes directly to your hard drive. It doesn't look from the internet and try and find and download an image. So if you want something from the internet, you will have to have previously downloaded it. And it's just any image. It could be your icon, it could be something relating to your company. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the aspect ratio so that when I resize it, it will always resize in the same height and width. Previously, when I was trying to resize it, I could resize it like this. So we've got a lot of wasted space, which may be what you want, but I want the aspect ratio to stay the same. So the ratio between the height and the width. So that could be your icon, that could be an attractive text to click on, or attractive image to click on. Now you can't add hyperlinks to go onto, let's say, Microsoft.com website, but you can do other things. Again, we've got this action icon, this action categories here, and we'll have a look at that when we're inserting buttons a bit later. So this video was all about adding something that could be helpful to you, the end user. We were inserting text boxes, we were inserting images, and we were inserting shapes. So it's not fully featured in, say, Microsoft Word, where you can do free form shapes or whatever, but you can always do something elsewhere. So maybe if I go into Word and I do an image in Word, so if I insert a shape, which is more of a free form shape, there we go. And then I could always use the snipping tool, which is available on computers from Windows 7 onwards, to extract that and then save it as a file. You can tell I'm no artist, can't you? So here is my shape. and then insert that image. So that is one way of being able to import from other applications which are a bit more user-friendly. So maybe that's my new icon of my company. So we can insert text boxes, images, and shapes. We will see in the future how we can also use the shapes and the images to do things, actions, but with text boxes, you can also add. Your boss comes up to you and says, well, it's looking good so far. There's just one thing. I just want to concentrate on Greater Manchester and West Midlands. Can we do that? And you say, well, we could do that. We could click on Greater Manchester and West Midlands, and that will focus on them by holding down Control. But suppose we want to go a bit more. This gives the user the end choice. And I don't want the user to the end choice, says your boss. I just want to have this about Greater Manchester and West Midlands, and that's it. So, what can we do? Well, we can use something called filters. Now, filters means that we don't have to go back over the data. We have all of this data, which includes Greater Manchester and the West Midlands, but also includes Merseyside and Tyne and Way and the rest of it. We don't want to have to get rid of that data physically. We don't want to have to re-import a new set of data with just that. But we don't want them to appear in our visualizations. So what we can use are things called filters. Now, there are 3 different types of filters, and we'll be adding to this by looking at slices later on, but just concentrating on filters. Filters allow you to remove from a particular visualization, or a particular page, or a particular report, all of the pages, various bits of data. So you can concentrate on particular bits. So let's say I wanted to just concentrate on, as my boss said, Greater Manchester and West Midlands. Okay. Well, there are 3 different types. First of all, we have the visual filters. Now, the visual filters you'll see are set up based on what you can see. So they are a visualization filter, but they're also visual. So they're based upon literally what you can see. So if I go into reader name, currently reader name is all. Now, if I click on it, we then have something called filter type advanced filtering. For the moment, I'm just going to show you basic filtering. So we click on that and change this to basic filtering. And we can say, well, I only want to see Greater Manchester and West Midlands. And you see that everything else disappears. Now you could say I only want to see one thing. So I only want the user to be able to just click on one particular item. Or you can say, well, I'm fine if the user selects multiple items, they can select all. Now selecting none doesn't make any sense, because then there'll be no data to be shown in your visualization. And while things like Excel might interpret selecting none of the categories as being shown nothing, here in Power BI, it just means it ignores the filter. So I'm going to select Greater Manchester and West Midlands, and you'll notice that up here it says region name is Greater Manchester or West Midlands. Even when I collapse it, you'll see that there is a filter on because it doesn't say region name is all. Now, when I hover over it, you'll see this little icon. It looks a bit like an eraser, a rubber, and that removes the filter. So let's select that again, Greater Manchester and West Midlands. Now, because this is a visual filter, it is only looking at this one visualization. if I don't want this, I'll click on the eraser here, and I'll scroll down to the page level photos. This will affect everything on this particular page, but there's nothing there. So we haven't got everything set up like we have with the visuals because we've added the columns. Instead, we have to say what our photo is going to be. Well, I want to filter on the region name, so I'll drag region name across, and here we get exactly the same thing. Basic filtering and advanced filtering. You might notice a third option, which was available in the visual photos called Top N, which we'll have a look at in a future video, isn't there. So again, I can say Greater Manchester and West Midlands, and you'll notice that instantly all of the visualizations on this page have been updated to reflect that. Now, that's not the case for other pages. Here we can see in the matrix that we've previously set up, we still have all 6. So, let's remove this photo. I'm going to click on the X to really get rid of it and take it down to the report level. Now, incidentally, notice that I couldn't have just dragged it in easily from page level to report level. I actually have to remove it and then recreate it. So in the report level photos, I'm going to put Greater Manchester and West Midlands. And now if I go to the matrix page, you can see that it has now been updated to reflect just those 2 categories. So this is basic filtering, and you can basic filter on text, you can basic filter on dates. So if I drag a date in here, you can see we've got basic filtering as well. And you can see this very small scroll bar there. The formatting is not brilliant. I've got to hover over each of these to say, well, I just want to concentrate on the March the 1st, 1995. Maybe I need to just add a bit more width to really be able to do that. And you can also do basic filtering on measures as well. So I want to have basic filtering only when the sales volume is 458. So you can imagine, not as useful for dates and for numbers, which generally are in ranges rather than discrete categories. But still doable. So, photos. We've got 3 different types: visual level photos, page level photos, which affects all of the page, and report level photos, which affects all of the pages in this